ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुक्तापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदां सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुवैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So, welcome to our SSR Science of Self-Realization reading. We are in the sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Sixth chapter of Science of Self-Realization. And we were reading this Kotoski and Srila Prabhupada's discussion, and we were somewhere here. Yeah, we discussed this. Guna
Yes,
Karma Vibhagasha, we were here. Um, it's a very long discussion.
yes. This one also we are done.
Ah,
You have done
same
that.
time. Revolt, revolt.
Come to
Yeah, so this is what we were.
Yeah,
Yeah,
here
when the
we had
baby
stopped.
comes
Yes.
to the lap of the mother, then he is very happy. And
Yeah,
last
here
time,
it is.
I mean, yesterday we discussed that Krishna is father, mother, and grandsire, right? So generally, children they come first to father. If father is not so much, loving to them, they go to mother. And if mother is also not that much loving, then they go to grandfather or grandmother. And Krishna says, I'm all three, right? So therefore, it stops. What stops? We are satisfied. Okay, we are satisfied when we come to Krishna. Okay. So when we surrender to Krishna, we are quite satisfied. Okay. So now, volunteers. One should read Professor Kotoski, and other one should read Srila Prabhupada. Start. Who will read Professor Kotoski?
yeah, I can read Prabhuji, no problem.
Okay. Start.
Yeah. Have not you come across hostile attitudes to your teachings from Orthodox Hindus or Brahmanas in India?
We have subdued them.
Ah,
Any Orthodox Hindu may come and challenge, but we have our weapon, the Vedic literature. So no one has come. Even Christian priests in America love me. They say these boys are American, Christian, Jewish, and now they are so much after God. But we could not deliver them. They are admitting it. Their fathers and their parents come to me, offer their obeisances, and say, Swamiji, it is our great fortune that you have come here to teach God consciousness. So, on the contrary, I have been well received. In India also, since you inquired of India, all other sects are admitting that before me, many kinds of Swamis went to different countries. but they could not convert even a single person to Krishna consciousness. They are admitting that, as far as I am concerned, I don't take any credit, but I am confident that because I am presenting the Vedic knowledge as it is, without adulteration, it is being effective. That is my confidence. If you have the right medicine and you administer it to a patient, you must be sure that he will be cured.
How many out of your 1000 disciples do you have in India itself? How many of your community do you have in India?
In India,
Yes, yes.
there are many Krishna conscious persons, hundreds, thousands, millions. In India, there is no question. There is not a single Hindu who is not Krishna conscious.
Just stop. Some few years back, maybe 7 8 years back, in Russia there was this Orthodox Christian society. Some of it, not all of it, they were trying to ban Bhagavad Gita in Russia because our devotees, ISKCON devotees, they were distributing Bhagavad Gita a lot, and many people were taking to Krishna consciousness. So they said, let's ban Bhagavad Gita. So now the case went into the court, and the court asked, why you want to ban Bhagavad Gita? They say it is fanatic. So the court said, prove it how it is fanaticism, and they couldn't prove it. In India also a lot of protests took place when they came to know that in Russia they're trying to ban Bhagavad Gita. So if one carefully reads Bhagavad Gita, right, you will never become fanatic, because Bhagavad Gita doesn't speak like it talks about spiritual knowledge. Okay. Why I'm saying this, because one argument was also given that there are many Krishna conscious persons in India, millions of them, billions of them, and the whole India Bhagavad Gita is so famous, and we don't have fanatic people of Bhagavad Gita. How can you have it in Russia? So on that basis, that whole ban was lifted up. So it's like this. I was just trying to mention. Go ahead.
Yes, I understand.
Vaishnavas. This is called the Vaishnava cult. You have been in India, so as it is commonly known, there are many millions of Vaishnavas. For example, this gentleman, an Indian gentleman present, is the commander of Air India Airlines. He is not my disciple, but he is a Vaishnava, Krishna conscious. Similarly, in India, there are millions of Krishna conscious persons. There are even Mohammedans who are Krishna conscious. At Gorakhpur University, there is a Mohammedan professor who is a great devotee of Lord Krishna. So, this is natural. It is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Krishna consciousness is everywhere, in everyone's heart. It simply has to be awakened by this process. That is all. It is there in your heart also. It is not that it is foreign to you. In everyone's heart, there is Krishna consciousness. By this process, we have to awaken it. It is just like the way the sun rises.
Okay.
It is not that all of a sudden the sun comes from nowhere. It is there, but it rises in the morning. Similarly, this Krishna consciousness is everywhere, but somewhere or another it is now covered. By this process, it is reawakened and aroused by association.
So this Krishna consciousness is a um, universal wisdom. Okay. It is not sectarian, or it is not related to one religion. Okay. We um, we say this, right. We say Jagannath means the Lord of
The
Orissa, or the Lord of India, or
word,
what, of Lord of
word.
whole world. What even
Mhm.
the world? He's Jagannath.
Jagat.
Yeah,
Jagat.
the whole universe.
Mm.
So it is like this. So our presentation of Krishna consciousness is not limited to religion, the so-called narrow-minded religion and all that. Ours is a philosophical presentation. It is a cultural presentation where people can take it happily, and they need not change their external dress. They need not change, even originally whatever they belong to. They can add Krishna consciousness in their life. This is how we also need to present Krishna consciousness. So somebody may say, I worship this god, that god, whatever. So our answer is, okay, add Krishna. Someone says, I don't worship anything. Okay, then you add full Krishna, 100% Krishna.
Mm.
So like that. So our presentation is like that whatever you may be, you can add Krishna to your life. If you have nothing, then you add everything.
Mm.
So like
Correct.
that, the hippies, they had nothing. They gave up everything. They left their parents, they went into forest, they were playing music and all that. So they had actually taken nothing. They had no connection with the society. So for them, Prabhupada take to Krishna consciousness fully. So they took it to fully. And they just liked it. And the American priests in the church, they were surprised. They said, how you could get them, follow your religion, and which is even tougher. No meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication. In American society, meat eating is there, intoxication is there, gambling is also there. How could you get this also rid away? So I'll tell you. Um, okay, some problem. Hmm. Uh, Once I was in America, and there, they teach young couple who are having children, no? Babies. They teach, okay, what is going to happen, what is going to happen in a hospital, what is the procedure, and all that. So there was this one American couple, and they were having baby. So they asked, okay, what happens after discharge and all that. So the hospital, person said, while at the time of discharge, we give you very nice wine to drink. I was very shocked to hear this. A baby is
Mhm.
born and you're giving alcohol to the mother. That alcohol will be converted into milk, and how can you give that? Of course, they were giving little only, but why that little also, right? So that is how their culture is. Here in India, when a baby is born, how much sattvic we keep the environment, right? The food is sattvic, the environment is sattvic, everything is sattvic. But there, they have no such consideration. When you're discharged with a baby, we'll give you one glass of wine to drink. This is what they were saying. So, but what to do? That is their culture and all that. So when the priests, they saw that Krishna consciousness is um, even higher principles, and they are following it in a place where these three things are broken, every day, every now and then. So they was very surprised. Okay, okay, go ahead.
You came yesterday to Moscow. Have you seen something here in Moscow?
No, I'm not very much interested in sightseeing.
But in any case, just to stay in an old style hotel is not interesting. Not many people to see, and you are leaving the day after tomorrow.
That is my program.
You are leaving for the United States or for Europe.
Yes, for Europe, Paris. And we have two very big ceremonies in London and San Francisco. They are making arrangements for the Ratha Yatra car festival. This car festival is observed in Jagannath Puri. You have been to Jagannath Puri?
Yes, the car festival has been held from immemorial time. A very old tradition, huge cars.
Yes, and it has now been introduced in the Western countries in London and San Francisco. And gradually, maybe we will introduce it in other countries also.
In London, there is a large Indian community.
No, no. This is organized by the Englishmen and Americans. The Indian communities in London and San Francisco are trying to become, you know, the word Sahib.
Westernized. They both laugh. A very great social anthropologist at the university has written something very interesting. He says there are two processes: the process of westernization among Brahmanas, mainly the upper class, and the process called Sanskritization, which is the process of adopting Brahman rituals, etc., by so called lower classes, even untouchables. It's a very interesting process in India just now. But India's position, unfortunately, is problematic.
The difficulty is that India is nowhere. They are trying to imitate Western life, but from a materialistic or technical point of view, they are 100 years back.
Yes, that is right. But what to do for India?
There is one thing I am experiencing. If India's spiritual asset is distributed, that will increase India's honor. Because everywhere I go, people still adore Indian culture. If this treasure house of Indian spiritual knowledge is properly distributed, at, at least people outside of India will understand that they are getting something from India.
Of course, you are right. The Indian culture heritage is to be made known everywhere. But at the same time, in what way would this benefit the Indian masses themselves? They are sitting in India and they have nothing to gain from the spreading of the Indian culture heritage all over the world. Indian villages have to have fertilizers, tractors, etc.
Yes, we do not object to that.
Yes, I don't think you can object, but at the same time, something has to be done in India. One may call it westernization, but this introduction to an industrial technological revolution is needed in all fields of Indian life: agriculture, industry, etc.
Arjuna, before understanding the Bhagavad Gita, was a fighter, and after understanding the Bhagavad Gita, he remained a fighter. So, we don't want to change the position. For example, you are a respectable professor, a teacher. We don't say that you must change your position. We have come to convince you about our philosophy. That is all. Arjuna was refusing to fight. Krishna, I don't want to kill my relatives. I do not want this kingdom. But he was taught the Bhagavad Gita, and at the end, when Krishna inquired, what is your decision now? He said, Karishye vachanam tava. Yes, I shall act as you say. Bhagavad Gita 18.73. That means that his consciousness changed. He was a fighter and he remained a fighter, but he changed his consciousness. We want that. We don't want to disturb the present condition of society. We are not against technology. No. But we try to make one understand this Krishna consciousness. That is our program.
So here, Prabhupada explains how we should present Krishna consciousness. So we don't want to change the position of the people. We want to change their thinking. Okay, their
Other-
consciousness. Question. So
no, sorry, no question.
okay, okay. So we want them to think the way Bhagavad Gita philosophy makes us to think. Okay, and that is not to change the condition, the external condition, but the internal consciousness of the person. And then with that consciousness, when he does his duty, then it is welfare work for all beings. This is how we need to present Krishna consciousness. This is our program. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, unmute.
Hmm.
Of course, at the same time, the final goal of any consciousness is to change the society, to make it a better society.
That is automatic.
I'm not really so happy that the ultimate goal is not to disturb society, because in modern society, there are many things to be changed through consciousness.
That preliminary change is to follow rules and regulations of austerity. For example, don't take intoxicants.
No indulging in intoxicants, simplicity, etc.
So, if one takes to this process,
Then the others will come automatically.
one's whole life will change because these four things illicit sex life, intoxicants, meat eating, and gambling are very great impediments to social improvement.
That will automatically make life simpler, because a person who does not indulge in illicit sex, intoxicants, and such other things has to lead a comparatively simple life.
The other day, I was speaking in Bombay with a respectable gentleman. I was telling him that Krishna says, Mam hi partha vyapashtritya yepi syoha papa yonayaha strityo vaishyas tata sudras tepi anti param gatim. Even those who are low born, Papa Yonayaha, Vaishyas, and Sudras are also included by accepting me. By accepting my shelter, they are also elevated to the transcendental position. From Bhagavad Gita 9.32. Now, why have the higher classes of Hindu society neglected this instruction of the Bhagavad Gita? Suppose one is Papa Yovanayaha, lowborn, Krishna says that he can be elevated to the transcendental position if he accepts me. Why was not this message propagated by the higher class of people so that the so called lowborn could be elevated? Why did they reject them? The result was that instead of accepting the Mohammedans, the Indians rejected them. And now they are partitioned off. They have become eternal enemies of India. So, for the first time, we are trying to elevate persons to the higher position of Krishna consciousness, even if one is low born, because the soul is pure. In the Vedas, it is said that the soul is untouched by any material contamination. It is simply temporarily covered. This covering should be removed. Then one becomes pure. That is the mission of human life. To uncover ourselves from this material environment, come to spiritual understanding, and surrender to Krishna. Then life is perfect.
Yeah, we'll just go forward. Okay. The tiny world of modern science. During a morning walk at Venice Beach, Las Vegas, April of 1973, Srila Prabhupada discussed modern science and its high priests. They claim to have millions of dollars worth of knowledge, but if we ask them a question, they simply give us a post-dated check. Why should we accept it? They cannot even produce a spear of grass if they have biological and chemical experiments. Nonetheless, they are claiming that the creation is produced by some chemical or biological method. How does one how does no one question all this nonsense? Okay. So this is a talk with Srila Prabhupada and Sarup Damodar Goswami Maharaj, who is Dr. Singh. So he was a PhD in probably I think chemistry, and he came from Manipur. He's no more on this earth. He was a sannyas disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He was very scholarly, PhD, and so he talked with the scientists over the years with Nobel laureates, and he discussed Krishna conscious philosophy with them. Okay, so here he's having a talk with Srila Prabhupada, morning walk. Srila Prabhupada in the morning would go for a walk. Why would he go for a walk?
In one of the narrations it came, he was advised by the doctor.
Yeah.
He was left with no choice. I mean, he must go.
No, not choice. Walking will keep him healthy.
Healthy, yeah.
Yeah.
He was
So
ignoring his health actually for the preaching. So,
no, he was very old person. He had diabetes.
yeah.
So he would do things very regularly in the morning, walking, massage, and that's how he would keep his health. Up and down were there, but you can see
Yeah.
um, Prabhupada gave very high um, importance to walking. So we should also walk.
Yeah, yeah, that's very
Okay,
important.
that's what I was coming to. Okay,
Yes.
so minimum 30 minutes walk every day is important. Okay, so I'll read this first paragraph and then
Yes.
we can go to Dr. Singh and Srila Prabhupada.
Okay.
The whole world of science and technology is running on the false idea that life is born from matter. We cannot allow this nonsensical theory to go unchallenged. Life does not come from matter. Matter is generated from life. This is not theory, it is a fact. Science is based on an incorrect theory, therefore, all its calculation and conclusions are wrong. And people are suffering because of this. When all these mistaken modern scientific theories are corrected, people will become happy. So, we must challenge the scientists and defeat them. Otherwise, they will mislead the entire society. Matter changes in six phases: birth, growth, maintenance, production, byproducts, dwindling, and death. But the life within matter, the spirit soul, is eternal. It goes through no such changes. Life appears to be developing and decaying, but actually it is simply passing through each of the six phases until the material body can no longer be maintained. Then the old body dies and the soul enters new body. When our clothing is old and worn, we change it. Similarly, one day our bodies become old and useless, and we pass on to a new body. In as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 2.30, Dehinosam yata dehe kaumaram yovaram jara tata dehantar praptir dhiras tatra namuyate. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body and from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. And a little later, Antavanta ime deha nitya sukta sharirinaha. This means that only the material body of the indestructible and eternal entity is subject to destruction. This material body is perishable, but the life within the body is nitya, eternal. So, so in this two three paragraphs, Prabhupada said that life comes from life; it doesn't come from matter. If we see some ants coming out from mud, do we say the mud gave birth to ants? No, right?
No,
Ants only
no.
gave birth to ants. Hmm? But for the scientists, right, they think it is all a chemical combination. So if we challenge them, put the chemicals and get the person back to life, that is not possible for them. So that's why Prabhupada said that's a post-dated check. What is the problem with the post-dated check? Suppose I give you 5 lakh rupee check. Let's say the date is April 1st April. Will you accept it happily?
No.
Why?
I'm not sure whether I will get
Yeah.
the real money.
Because it's post-dated. You
Yeah,
will tell, I want the check on today's date. Okay? Because even if you go to bank, the bank will come on that day. But if it's today's day, you can go tomorrow and you can see if it works or not. You get the money or not, right?
right.
So that's the problem with the post-dated checks. It can bounce. So this theory of the modern scientist is like a post-dated check. It can bounce. It can bounce back. Okay, and it has bounced back multiple times. And they have changed this modern science. Recently, if you know, they are trying to remove one planet from their planetary system. Something like, I think, Pluto or something, Neptune or whatever. I don't know which planet they are removing. That is not going to be that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're trying to reclassify it. Yes.
Uh, Okay, and here Prabhupada specifies two verses of Bhagavad Gita. One is the Dehino Simyata Dehe, and then
अंतवंत में देहा
Antavantame Deha 2.18,
या नित्य
and Prabhupada talks about dress also. Vasam se jirnani yatha vyahayam.
था
Uh, so just like we change clothes every day, the body changes. I mean, the soul changes the bodies every day. Actually, our body is changing every day, right? At the time of that, we get a completely new body, right? At the
या
time of death, we get a completely new body. I have some nice pictures to show. See, this is our basic philosophy. If anyone wants to understand Krishna, right, first he needs to understand the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We should make sure that first and second chapter of Bhagavad Gita is they understood or not. Hmm? Our body grows and then dwindles and then goes away. This one. It is changing just like we are changing clothes. Now today, even women wear men's clothes. So sometimes we don't know whether it is a man or a woman, right? Even by the
राइट
haircut also we may not know. So anyway, the point is that the soul may take so many bodies. Sometimes man, woman, animals. Hmm? This is what Prabhupada explained here. Huh. So can they bring a dead man back by injecting it with chemicals? This they cannot do. If they say life comes from matter, then you put some matter back into it. You cannot do. Why? Because it is not like that. If you look at this picture, what do you see? Don't look at the right one, okay? The middle one.
इट्स कृष्णा इन द हार्ट
Yeah, so our body is like a machine. Body is like a
या
machine.
मशीन
Legs
या
are like tires. There's the engine here. Then there's a camera. Eyes are like camera. Brain is like the material brain is the memory. Okay. And the soul is sitting inside and is driving this whole body. Okay. The Paramatma is saying how he's driving.
या
Okay.
वेरी नाइस
Yeah. So we know that the heart is the main thing in our body. It pumps blood everywhere, right? And we know that the heart needs electrical pulses. Why? Because of pacemakers. Pacemaker, what is a pacemaker? They will keep it near the heart and they'll connect what the wires to the muscles of the heart, and the pacemaker will send electric pulses, okay, and the heart will then pump blood. That's how they'll keep the person alive. So point is that electric pulses are needed for the pump. The heart is a pump, right? It's a pump made of flesh, not of metal. So who is giving these electrical pulses? This they have not figured out. And this is what the soul is giving. The moment the soul goes away, you may provide external electric pulses, which they do. The defibrillator, sometimes they can save a person, the soul may come back, but sometimes they're not able to save, even with the defibrillator. Why? Because the soul has left. Um, so modern science is not able to understand what is the soul. And the reason is soul is not matter, it is spiritual. So if they try to put some hydrogen chloride or microscope, they cannot see the soul. They cannot feel the soul. We have to understand the soul only by anuman. Anal, uh, what to say? Anuman means some speculation only we can understand.
Speculation. Yeah.
Yeah, some analysis, observation, conclusion we can do. Yeah, there may be soul, but we cannot perceive it. We cannot perceive it. So here is where modern science cannot go further. Okay, and we'll see what questions Dr. Singh asks and how Prabhupada answers. So same thing, we discussed. So someone read Dr. Singh and someone reads.
Prabhuji, the last para, according to the Vedas, I think that was not right.
This was read.
Oh, okay. Measurement of
I didn't
soul.
read this.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I think this measurement is
We didn't
very.
read. We had stopped there, Nitya, eternal, we had
Oh, okay,
stopped.
okay, okay, okay. According to the Vedas, the measurement of the soul within the body is 1/10,000 part of the tip of the hair. So you take a tip of the hair, you divide it 1,000 times, then take that 1,000 time, one single part, and then divide it one more 1,000 times, and that what remains is the measurement of the soul. It is just to give an idea. It is very very small. Okay, this is very small. In fact, it is atomic. But because of that atomic spiritual energy, my body is working. Is it so difficult to understand? Suppose a man thinks himself very stout and strong. Why he's stout and strong? Only because within his body is a small spiritual spark. But as soon as the small spiritual spark is gone, his body dies and the strength and the vigor becomes void. If scientists say that matter is the cause and origin of life, then let them bring just one dead man back to life by injecting him with chemicals. But this they cannot do. Okay. Go ahead now. Who will read Dr. Singh?
Want to change, or I will read otherwise.
Okay, Mataji, you read Dr. Singh.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, go ahead.
Since scientists cannot see the spirit soul, they say its existence is very doubtful.
How can they see it? It is too small to see. Where is such seeing power?
Still, they want to sense it by some means.
If you inject just one grain of deadly poison into someone, he immediately dies. No one can see the poison or how it acts, but the poison is acting nevertheless. In the same way, the Vedas say that because the minute particle called the soul is within the body, the whole body is working nicely. If I pinch myself, I immediately feel it because I am conscious all over my skin. But as soon as the soul is absent, which is the case when my body dies, you can take this same skin and cut it and chop it, and no one will protest. Why is this simple thing so hard to understand? Is this not detecting spirit?
That is the soul. But what about God?
First of all, let us understand the soul. The soul is a small God. If you understand the sample, then you can understand the whole. Now here is matter. Srila Prabhupada points at a dead tree with his cane. Formerly, leaves and twigs were growing from this tree. Why are they not growing now? Can the scientist answer this question?
They would say the chemical composition has changed.
All right. Then, if they are so advanced in knowledge of chemistry, they must supply the proper chemicals to make branches and leaves grow again.
Knowledge means that one must be able to demonstrate his theory. They should be able to show in their laboratories that life is caused by a combination of chemicals.
Yes, the scientific method means first observation, then hypothesis, and then demonstration. But these scientists cannot demonstrate their hypothesis. They simply observe and then make nonsense. Scientists say that the chemicals are the cause of life, but all the chemicals that were there when the tree was living are still present. And life energy is also there. There are thousands of microbes in the tree, and they are all living entities. No one can claim that life energy is lacking in the body of this tree.
But what about the life energy of the tree itself?
Yes, that is the difference. The living force is individual, and the particular individual living entity, which was the tree, has left. This must be the case, since all the chemicals that are necessary to support life are still there, yet the tree is dead.
So
Uh,
one question here,
yeah, Prabhuji, yeah, yeah.
within our body, there are also other germs and bacteria, right? But the main soul, when it leaves the body, even though other souls are there, still the body is not able to function. It is dead, right?
Yes, Prabhuji, that's a
Yeah. So same way,
question.
even a tree, there is a main soul in the tree. There are other souls also. It is said that actually every atom has a soul. It is it is to that
Hmm.
extent. Um, so, but the point is that every body that we see has a single soul which controls the whole body. Okay, and within that body also there are other souls. So if the main one goes away, then the other souls cannot revive it. That is also there. Here, Prabhupada will explain it with another
Yeah,
example.
yeah, Prabhuji. So this line, the living force is individual, and the particular individual living entity, which was the
Where are
tree,
you?
has
Sorry,
left.
sorry, sorry.
Yeah, Prabhuji, the first line. Yes,
Yeah,
that
go
is the
for it.
difference.
Yeah.
The living force is individual.
Huh,
The one which we the last read.
huh, okay.
So the living force is individual. It is okay, and the particular individual living entity was which was the tree has left.
Hmm.
So this living force is not. He is not. Prabhupada is not talking about tree. I think it's somebody else. The living force is or general. I think this is a general. The living force is
No, no.
individual.
What?
Okay.
See, this is what I was saying that within a tree there may be living many souls,
Hmm.
right? But there is a main soul that is controlling the whole tree. Okay. If that leaves, then the tree becomes dead.
Tree becomes dead. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Here is another example. Read from here. You will
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. Here is another example. Suppose I'm living in an apartment and then I leave it. I am gone. But many other living entities remain there. Ants, spiders, and so forth. It is not true that simply because I have left the apartment, it can no longer accommodate life. Other living entities are still living there. It is simply that I, an individual living being, have left. The chemicals in the tree are like the apartment. They are simply the environment for the individual living force, the soul, to act through. Thus, the scientist will never be able to produce life in the chemical laboratory. The so-called scientists say that life begins from chemicals, but the real question is, where have the chemicals come from? The chemicals come from life, and this means that life has mystic power. For example, an orange tree contains many oranges, and each orange contains chemicals, citric acid and others. So, where have these chemicals come from? Obviously, they have come from the life within the tree. The scientists are missing the origin of the chemicals. They have started their investigation from the chemicals, but they cannot identify the origin of the chemicals. Chemicals come from the supreme life, God. Just as the living body of a man produces many chemicals, the supreme life, the supreme Lord, is producing all the chemicals found in the atmosphere, in the water, in humans, in animals, and in the earth. And that is called mystic power. Unless the mystic power of the Supreme Lord is accepted, there is no solution to the problem of the origin of life.
The scientists will reply that they cannot believe in mystic power.
See,
But they must explain.
this is
Yeah,
a question that our young children may also ask us.
yeah, Prabhuji. This is, I mean, it's about natural. Everybody will ask this question. Yeah, those who
Yeah.
don't know.
So let's see what Prabhupada answers.
But they must explain the origin of the chemicals. Anyone can see that an ordinary tree is producing many chemicals. They cannot deny it. But how does it produce them? Since they cannot answer this, they must accept that the living force has mystic power. I cannot explain how my fingernail is growing out of my finger. It is beyond the power of my brain. In other words, it is growing by inconceivable potency or Achinta Shakti. So, if Achinta Shakti exists in an ordinary being, imagine how such Achinta Shakti God possesses. The difference between God and me is that Although I have the same potencies as God, I can produce only a small quantity of chemicals, whereas He can produce enormous quantities. I, I can produce a little water in the form of perspiration, but God can produce the seas. Analysis of one drop of seawater gives you the qualitative analysis of the sea without any mistake. Similarly, the ordinary living being is part and parcel of God. So, by analyzing the living beings, we can begin to understand God. God, there is great mystic potency. God's mystic potency is working swiftly, exactly like an electric machine. Machines operate by certain energy, and they are so nicely made that all the work is done simply by pushing a button. Similarly, God said, "Let there be creation," and there was creation. Considered in this way, the working of nature are not very difficult to understand. God has such wonderful potencies that the creation on his order alone immediately takes place.
Scientists don't accept God or Achintya Sakti.
That is their rascaldom. God exists, and his Achintya Sakti also exists.
Scientists say that life was created biochemically.
And I say to them, why don't you create life? Your biology and chemistry are very advanced. So why don't you create life?
They say they will create life in the future.
The future. If the scientists know the creative process, why can't they create life now? If life has a biochemical origin and if biologists and chemists are so advanced, then why cannot they create life in their laboratories? When this crucial point is raised, they say we shall do it in the future. Why in the future? That is nonsense. Trust no future, however pleasant. What is meaning of their advancement? They are talking nonsense.
They say that they are right on the verge of creating life.
But that is also the future in a different way. We must accept that they still do not know the truth about the origin of life. Since they are expecting to be able to create life in the future, presently their knowledge must be imperfect. Their proposal is something like giving someone a post dated check. Suppose I owe you $10,000 and I say, yes, I will pay you the entire sum with this post dated check. Is that all right? If you are intelligent, you will reply, at present, give me at least $5 in cash so I can see something tangible. Similarly, the scientist cannot produce even a single blade of grass by biochemistry. Yet still they claim that life is produced from matter. What is this nonsense? Is no one questioning this? We can prove that life began from life. Here is the proof. When a father begets a child, the father is living and the child is living. But where is the scientist proof that life comes from matter? We can prove that life begins from life, and we can also prove that the original life is Krishna. But what evidence exists that a child is ever born out of a dead stone? The scientists cannot prove that life comes from matter. They are leaving that aside for the future.
The basis of what the scientists call scientific integrity is that they talk only about what they can experience through their senses.
Then they are suffering from what we call Dr. Frog's philosophy. There was once a frog who had lived all his life in a well. One day, a friend visited him and informed him of the existence of the Atlantic Ocean. Oh, what is this Atlantic Ocean? Asked the frog in the well. It's a very vast body of water, his friend replied. How vast is it double the size of this well? Oh no, much larger, his friend replied. How much larger? 10 times the size? In this way, the frog went on calculating. But what was the possibility of his ever understanding the depths and far reaches of the great ocean? Our faculties, experience, and powers of speculation are always limited. The frog was always thinking in terms relative to his well. He had no power to think otherwise. Similarly, the scientists are estimating the absolute truth, the cause of all causes, with their imperfect senses and minds, and thus they are bound to be bewildered. The essential fault of the so-called scientists is that they have adopted the inductive process to arrive at their conclusions. For example, if a scientist wants to determine whether or not man is mortal by the inductive process, he must study every man to try to discover if some or one of them may be immortal. The scientist says, I cannot accept the proposition that all men are mortal. There may be some men who are immortal. I have not yet seen every man. Therefore, how can I accept that man is mortal? This is called the inductive process. And the deductive process means that your father, your teacher, or your guru says that man is mortal and you accept it.
Okay, wait. You understand this inductive process? Inductive process is trying to find knowledge by our own strength, and deductive process is to accept some authority, and then what the authority tells, we accept that as knowledge.
Yes, yes,
Okay. Um, the problem in inductive process is we may not arrive at the right conclusion. Hmm? Like, man is mortal. Hmm? If that is to be found by inductive process, then one has to go and see for all the men. Okay, now that may not be possible, that may not be practical also, but man is mortal, such thing can be accepted from a teacher, a parent. Okay, so there is no need for inductive way. A deductive way is what we actually do, the deductive way only. If you see, the whole our whole education is deductive, it is never inductive, right? But when it comes to God, right, everyone tries to become inductive.
yeah, unfortunately, yes, yes, that's true.
Yeah, but there are various reasons why they want to be inductive, because there are religious scams and all that, so sometimes that puts off people. And of course, today many of people are having scientific fervor, so they want every explanation to be very very modern science related, then only they'll accept. So
Yeah,
yeah, so there are ways to explain through modern science also. Okay. uh, and by that one will get some experience of God. Okay, but to get full experience, one has to take to the process of bhakti, then one gets full experience. Intellectually we can explain, there's no problem. Okay, let's see if that point is explained, so let's go ahead.
Yeah. So there is an ascending process of gaining knowledge and a descending process.
yes, the ascending process will never be successful because it relies on information gathered through the senses, and the senses are imperfect. So we accept the descending process. God cannot be known by the inductive process, therefore, he is called adokshas,
Adoksha.
which means unknowable by direct perception. The scientists say there is no God because they are trying to understand by direct perception. But he is adokshasa. Therefore, the scientists are ignorant of God because they are missing the method of knowing him. In order to understand transcendental science, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master, hear from him submissively, and render service to him. Lord Krishna explains this in the Bhagavad Gita 4:34. Tat vidhi pranipaten pariprashnena sevaya.
Okay, I just want to mention one point. Fine, God cannot be understood to inductive process because we are depending on our senses, right? So we need to
Yes.
approach a guru. Under that, we have to render service to him, then bhakti and all that, and then we get experience of the Supreme Lord. Okay, the one who is adoksaja, unknowable by direct perception, gives us direct perception later on when we become
Mm,
pure or slightly pure also.
yeah.
So it is not like we will never have that experience through our senses. No. If you follow the bhakti process, you will experience God through your senses also.
Yes, Prabhu, yes.
Can you give me one example?
Like Prabhuji, when the gods, Arjuna got the special this thing.
Oh, yeah, he got
I,
special eyes and all that. We
I,
won't get those special eyes. Okay, we won't get
yeah,
those special
Prabhuji.
eyes.
Yeah,
We will get prasad.
Prasad.
Through prasad, we will experience. You know, if you eat the same thing which is in the temple outside, you will feel the difference. You will say, I ate that thing there also, and I ate this thing, same thing I ate there also. There's a difference. Have you
Big,
experienced
big
that?
difference. Big difference, Prabhuji.
This is everyone's practical experience that they will say that, when I eat the same sambar and rice at the temple, and I eat sambar and rice at some hotel, the taste may be same, but the experience is very different.
Yeah, I agree, Prabhuji. I agree.
So
This,
that is
this we
where Krishna
ourselves have
is,
seen.
yeah, that is where Krishna is giving us the experience through the senses. Okay. So at the start, we may not be able to understand him, but when we follow the process of bhakti, then whatever is connected to Krishna, his holy name, his prasad, his devotees, his holy dham, they all start to give us direct perception. Bhakti pareshanur bhakti. There's a particular verse. Bhakti pareshanubhava. Hopefully, I'll get this. Okay, it's pointing the same thing. It's a very nice verse. Ha. Bhakti pareshanubhava viraktir anyatra chaisatrika ek kalaha. What does it mean? Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. See, we were talking, we cannot have direct experience of the Supreme Lord, right? But Bhagavatam says you will have direct experience of the Supreme Lord. When all these three can occur simultaneously, when one has taken shelter of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, in the same way, pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. So, if a
Oh,
hungry person is eating, right, he will get three things at the same time: pleasure, some happiness while eating, nourishment, his body is becoming stronger, relief from hunger. He was very hungry, now he's relieved, right? Same way, when we take shelter of Krishna, when we take to the process of Krishna consciousness, we get these three things. We get devotion to Krishna, we get a direct experience of Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. What we are struggling to give up, that attachment to this material world, it will automatically come. Detachment will automatically. Why? Because we are getting attached to Krishna, right? So whatever is stopping from getting attached to Krishna, Krishna only will kick it out. We will kick out some Krishna will kick out. Okay, but my point to mention is about this point, that through our senses we cannot understand Krishna, right? We cannot understand Krishna. But when we do bhakti, then we will still have direct experience of the Supreme Lord. One example we took of prasad. So by prasad, we know, this is something out of the world. It is made by the same ingredients, but something when we offer to Krishna, something is happening. You are getting?
yes, yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a very nice verse. There's a lot to discuss here. So even in the beginning of Bhakti Yoga, we can start experiencing Krishna. Like I took the Prasad example, you can take the example of holy name also. Some of you already knew the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, right? I come from Maharashtra. The Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is there. But when I, in the association of devotees, I chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it gave me a direct experience of the Supreme Lord, right? Why? Because we are following the process of bhakti. In the association of devotees, then immediately that thing happens. Okay, so we are okay. Okay, we can stop today here and open up for some questions or comments. Any questions or comments?
Prabhuji, not able to make questions, but it's a very important topic.
Which one?
The topic being discussed, the matter and the
Right,
origin
right.
of the life.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
yes, yes,
Yeah, just one question, Prabhuji. In the doctor's frog, the philosophy.
yes.
So, what is the analogy Prabhupada is trying to make?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's an important point. There are a lot of things in this three, four paragraphs that we have read, and I've not gone into deeper into it. Uh, but yeah, regarding the Fox thing is like, it is it is trying to measure. Um,
The ocean by his limited.
yeah, he what the the frog is trying to understand what is the ocean, how big it is, and the experience of the frog is only the well that he's living. So somebody comes from the ocean and he says to this person who's living in the well that the ocean is 10 times bigger than that. Then the frog can say, okay, 10 times means this much. He says, no, 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 not even 10, it is 100. Then the frog will say, this much. you know he says, no, 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 we cannot measure only like that. So the point over there was, if we like, I will give you another example. There is the doctor of physical body, right? Doctor of medicine, internal medicine, right? We generally go to them if we have some cough or fever or something. Then there is specialists also, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So the specialist will study a very small part of the body, and he will go deeper and deeper and deeper into it, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So the point to be made is, if the um, both the doctors have studied the body, but one has studied one part of it is very deeper, 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 and then he has become expert, and then he has become a specialist. Now even that specialist will think that, if I were to learn all the specialism of all the parts of the body, human body, then it is very impossible thing for him. You're getting? So similarly, the frog may try to understand how big the Lord is. He will fail. So the point to mention is, if you go back, uh,
Yeah, it is like
Prabhupada.
Prabhuji, our knowledge. So whatever is our knowledge, we try to perceive the things as per that knowledge. So we have a
Yeah.
tiny knowledge,
So
and we are trying to, yeah.
yes. So what Prabhupada is saying, achintya shakti. Achintya shakti means, achintya means you cannot know. That is one understanding. You cannot know. Second understanding is, this is very mystic. Mystic in sense, it's kind of magic only. It's magical. Okay. So now, if we try to measure that Shakti of God, Achintya, magical Shakti of God, the mystic Shakti of God, it is not possible. Our senses are limited, our ability is limited. And to explain that, Prabhupada gives that a frog was trying to understand how big the ocean is. So he just said, okay, is it double? No, much larger. It's 10 times. And this way, the frog will go on calculating, but will he ever get a idea how big the ocean is? Will he ever get that idea?
Almost impossible for him.
Yeah, that's the thing. So through the inductive process, it becomes very difficult to come to conclusion. Therefore, one should, when it comes to the knowledge of God, then one should accept it through parampara. Does that help, Mataji, to understand?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah,
Hare Krishna.
yeah. The point that Prabhupada is saying, that if we accept God as Achinta Shakti, then it becomes very easy to accept Him. But if we challenge the Achinta Shakti and then we try to understand it by our own power, na, um, it is very difficult. It's like this frog philosophy. Any other question or comment? Okay. Okay. So we can stop here.